Hey everybody, welcome to A Million Little Podcast. I'm Kevin. She's Jamie.
Hi.
And we have a
Dave Miller, let's go.
He's here.
We have a Dave Miller live right here from Chicago, Skyping in. The first time the three of us are all together. Took special doing to get us all together, but we're here for episode number 2.
We might as well be snuggling in a fort reading Where the Red Fern Grows.
Was that what they were reading?
Yes.
That book sucks.
That's how he got the name of his band.
Oh, yeah.
Very on the nose.
Very on the nose. And how could you get your name? We probably covered this last season, but how could you get the name of your band from that book?
The Red Ferns?
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
Just because the title?
Because I think the title.
I love it when dogs tragically die, and we made a band about it. Cool deal. Anyway, we follow us at A Million Little Podcast on Instagram, at A Million Podcast on Twitter, and otherwise you're here. You're doing everything you need to do. Now it's time for us to talk about episode number 2.
Yep.
Dave, since Jamie and I did the lot, we sort of were all together for the season 2 preview. You added Dave Miller's solo performance for that, and then Jamie and I did the episode 1, and now this is the first time we're all together. What is your main takeaway from this episode, or where do you want us to start? Either way, like either a thesis statement at the top, or where would you like us to begin diving into this?
Okay, well, my main thesis would be I can't do this anymore. Okay?
I think that's the Dave Miller thesis in life.
It's a very Dave Miller thesis.
It is. So we can't do that. Okay.
So we have to keep going.
Yeah, no. So the things I have in capital letters, which the last thing I have in capital letters is Jason Ritter, 3 exclamation points, I'm done. We can't stop there. We can't start there, though, because he's a miniature character who can turn into something big. I also have Gary as John Cena. You guys know wrestling. Some of our listeners may not, so we won't start there. I do have also...
This is the kind of electricity we've been missing for in week 1.
Yes, and I apologize for being all over the place. Actually, it was 4 things in cap. I do also have, I look forward to Delilah, Regina, Angle. Okay, Angle's another wrestling term. We can maybe start there. The last thing I had is I'm over Katherine, but I'm actually not over Katherine. I'm a walking contradiction. So, you know what? I felt like this episode had a lot of restaurant-type stuff, so I'll just throw that out there. I look forward to the Delilah, Regina sort of conflict, which... It could have maybe gotten taken care of a little bit at the end when Regina called Andrew and said, let's talk about this. But I'll throw that out there. Sure. It was restaurant heavy tonight, I felt like. So
it kind of was, yeah. There were a couple of different people who had plot points in restaurants. Okay, yeah. So remind me, I mean, it's an interesting place to start. So fuck it. Let's just start with Gina's deal. It's weird. So Gina introduces the psychic friend.
Right.
And that came out of nowhere, by the way. Like, first of all, the restaurant thing to jump right in episode 2 was weird. But also, like, this total psychic guy, it was just out of nowhere.
Yeah. Regina, basically, her deal is, like, she thinks things are going great. Her business partner, Andrew, thinks they need to change a lot of stuff or they're going to fail. She doesn't believe it. She feels like he talks to Delilah more than her, which he does because he got a crush on Delilah and just keeps showing up at her house and holding her baby and shit.
Yeah, that's not typical business.
No. And he brings her food, which she eats basically like the little brother from A Christmas Story. She was really going to town on whatever was in that box. Good for her. And then at the beginning, it was a real, I mean, I don't know. It's, when I watch shows, for the most part, I suspend my disbelief, and it's just like, sure, of course this friend of hers happened to stop by to her new restaurant who happens to be a psychic, and we've never heard of him, and we'll probably never hear about him again. It's like, man, that's a real convenient little plot point there. But he did, when her friend Elon showed up, I did think he was evil.
Yeah, it seems like he's tracking as evil. And Dave, on the theme of restaurant stuff, Dave is just showing off. I believe you're drinking a red wine tonight. Is that what it looked like, Dave?
I am. After tonight's episode, I needed a smoke and a glass of red wine.
that is...
so if you're looking for something to pair with tonight's episode, a smoke and a red wine.
Dave is your sommelier.
There you go.
Yeah, it seemed like he had a nefarious vibe, I think. And also... Yeah, it's just, he wanders in, they haven't seen each other for 5 years, there's no reason to be seeing each other now, I don't think.
No, because she didn't know he was coming.
Right, because she's not psychic, so she didn't know. But he shows up, and it's just like, not only does he show up, he's just like hanging out for a while.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I guess in theory he hung out for a meal, and then I guess they asked him to do a reading.
Yeah, he was chatting with people. Starts right off saying hi to Delilah and sorry for your loss. Which turns out he only knows on account of being psychic. And again, yeah, I guess the evil vibe went away as soon as he's like, I'm a psychic. It's like, oh, that's what it was. That's what I was picking up on.
Oh, that's your weird thing. And this is an actor you've probably seen a bunch of stuff. I'm mainly remembering him from New Girl, is what I'm remembering him from.
He was Jess's too nice boyfriend from New Girl, which he was great in that. And I feel like sometimes, I don't know, maybe occasionally it's a thing where someone plays a lot of like goofy people and then tries to be serious. And sometimes I'm like... Maybe it's just because I know them from the other thing, but I'm just like, you're here. Kind of like when someone funny shows up on, like, SVU, and it's just like, oh, they raped and murdered everybody.
Right. If we're bringing a funny person into this, it's either to be funny or to be very not funny.
Yeah. When Martin Short shows up on SVU, you better watch your ass.
Martin Short, one of the all-time great villains on SVU, although that's a different podcast. But, yeah, this guy, he rolls up. Dave, what are your feelings on psychics in general?
Well, oh my God. So first of all, you know how, I mean, I can go a lot of different directions. You know how you have like eater.com and sort of those food blogs?
Yeah.
Like, so when he arrived on the show, I'm like, oh, okay, he could have heard about the restaurant and like Delilah's story from like, you know, maybe he was a journalist on eater.com or whatever. And he's just in the know. In terms of the whole like tarot card reading and stuff, I mean, I believe in those people. That is also a story for another podcast.
Great.
But I do, he creeped me out at first, and then when he did the reading and we got into the whole Maggie's brother thing, I do believe, and we'll get to that, I believe in tarot card readings. Again, not for this not for this podcast, or not until this bottle of wine is done. No.
Yeah, well.
Have you ever gotten a reading that like really either checked out to a scary amount or like predicted something?
Oh, it checked out the day after.
Yes.
And that's why it's a little heavy for right now.
Sure.
It involved an overdose, so not on my end.
Shoot.
But it literally did.
Yeah, Dave has not OD'd, besides on booze, which we all do, and we all do that together, and that's why we're friends. But,
all right.
Yeah, my God, yeah, that's intense. Well, because I know Dave, I remember from growing up, Dave saying, I remember some combination of these words is correct, that your mom's got a little gypsy in her, and so she feels shit.
Yes, so I am 50% Hungarian. My mom's 100%. We have gypsy blood. My mom gets premonitions only about negative things. Only about the bad things. So,
that's a bummer.
Yeah.
Sorry, I took off my headphones to take off my shirt real quick. It's very hot. I still have one on. I'm not completely nude.
It's an audio
what did
medium,
Dave just say?
Kevin.
I
Stop
know.
showing off.
No,
his mom sees things, only the bad stuff, though.
Oh, that sucks. Although I get it.
My mom's 100% Hungarian. I'm
Right.
50, so but in terms of the tarot card reading, I do believe in it. We live in a secular world. I'm not preaching, but I do believe in that stuff. But
And
when he first
not
arrived,
a secular girl.
And we are living in a secular world.
Dave is a gypsy boy.
You know.
I love this. This is why people listen to the pod.
They do. And we'll have to throw in one If I Lay Here from Dave before the end of the show. But I wrote down that I as a psychic, as more of a psychic skeptic on my part, I do think there is an age that a lot of women get to where they get into psychics. I think a lot of women get into psychics or mediums when they're older.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of ladies dabble in their 20s. And then
astrology
is fun. It's Libra season.
Congratulations, Jamie.
Thank you. I feel like, just judging by Instagram, I feel like a lot of people are really into astrology right now. I've been seeing a lot of it's Libra season type stuff, although I do follow a lot of drag queens, and I think there's crossover there.
I think so.
But and then, yes, I think older. And I mean, jury's out, but I feel like as Maggie was saying, if you want closure on something and you think talking to someone who's going to sort of, if they are a quack, tell you what you want to hear and it's going to make you feel better, then great. As long as you're not like literally spending all your money on it.
Right.
It's like, I'll spend like, $30 this week and feel better afterwards. And fucking whatever.
Right. And it could be anything between, a psychic or a spiritual advisor or a life coach. Like any of that shit. I'm also of the thing where if it makes you feel better, okay. But don't pay a lot of money for it. I just don't don't.
Not all your money.
Don't do that.
$30, I'm good.
Yeah, you drop in $20 here, $20 there. That's fine. Don't be dropping 4 digits on these people. That's what I don't want. Don't be throwing a K at them.
Treat it like getting lunch out at work.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's, I don't know. I think that's generally my feeling on that. And then there was the scene where Delilah's getting a reading.
He's getting a reading with Delilah. Maggie comes to support her because Gary's being a real jerk about it. Mm-hmm. In a supportive, in a friendly way. He wants to save her from getting scammed.
And I did want to say just about Gary and this is more, I thought of it as he was in the car with Maggie on the way back, and he's saying things about it. I think you got to give, I wrote you got to give your lady, I think also you give your dude, you give whoever your person is, you got to give them one crazy. You got to give them one. I think you got to give them one thing to be nuts about, and you just got to let it slide. And like if your lady's into psychic shit, all right, you can let that one go as long as it's not taking over your life.
Yeah.
I think you can't hassle her about it too much if that's like the only like crazy thing. And I would say for the thing that's crazy about me probably, and like possibly Dave as well, but like we're big time sport guys, and like that's a weird thing. It can be and she points that out where he had his Bruins hat with him at all the treatments and stuff.
He's shit talking psychics, and she's saying you rub your Bruins hat every time we get test results. There you go.
Right. So I think you got to give your person one crazy.
What's my crazy?
What's your crazy? Everything.
Do I? I probably have several crazies.
Yeah. I think your main crazy is like yourself.
What?
You crazy about you. You drive you crazy.
I'm crazy about,
Not crazy about yourself like that, like I'm the best. That would be an incredible crazy.
I'm picking up some vibes and the spirit guides are telling me I'm great.
Yeah, that would be something. But yeah, anyway, so I wrote you gotta give it one crazy.
Yes. So Delilah tries to get a reading. She doesn't. Instead, he says he ends up talking to Maggie's dead brother. Seems like talks about a car crash, and then Maggie is shook by it. And then Delilah, she says it later, but I was like, oh shit, John was not picking up the psychic phone for Delilah.
Oh yeah, he ghosted her on the psychic phone.
Yeah, which is like what I was thinking. And then she says it later. She's like, I think he couldn't talk to John because John didn't want to talk to me. I was like, yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
You know what you did, said John's ghost.
Yeah, he's like concentrating on you, and then like nobody's picking up the line. So Maggie's brother's like, sheesh, hi, hello, I'll pop in.
That's the thing. I'm like, so the psychic's aim was wrong? Or what? Like, he just missed it by a foot and got it from over here? I guess it's the energy within the room. I don't know.
You can't control who shows up, man.
Well, that might be a nod to, I don't know if you guys are familiar, like some of those syndicated shows, like maybe late 2000s. You had the lady from Jersey and you had the bearded guy. Like, you got
Sylvia Brown. Chicago.
Yeah. So, like, maybe that's a nod to that because, like, people in the audience would be like, can you read me? and like the person would read a different, it's like a nod to, oh, sorry, I got the wrong person.
Oh, sure, it's
trick of the trade.
Right, it's a carny trick, but also and I just put this together now. Part of the carny trick about it, who would be skeptical about that is someone who was the carny, and what was James Roday's biggest show before this? It was a little show called Psych, where he played the psychic guy.
God damn.
How did I not put that together before this?
Guy.
Clearly, this was half an inside joke where James Roday doesn't believe in the psychic when he was the psychic. That was his breakout role.
Was he really a psychic?
I don't think
was
so.
He a
This guy.
I didn't watch it.
I saw some episodes.
Sorry.
It was him and Delilah Hill. Dave, did you ever watch that show?
I know from like previews watching like Raw, and so yes, he was. Yeah, he was one of the psychics.
Right. Oh, yeah. Wow. How did I miss that?
Yeah.
Ugh.
All right. So I think we got that psychic angle, right? Is there anything else there? I think that's pretty good.
Yeah. That's good. That's good on the psychic. And
nice.
Regina, I mean, if we're wrapping up
Restaurant
Gina,
things, Gina.
I mean, the whole thing is just she's not happy with Andrew because he says they need to do stuff and she doesn't want to change anything. And then by the end of the episode, she realizes that brunch is busy, other times are not, and she calls Andrew to be like, hey, okay, we can do the stuff.
Right. Yeah,
My bad.
I kind of didn't know what to do with her call at the end to Andrew.
Yeah, I'm just going to wrap this up because, Kevin, you worked in a restaurant when you were in college. Jamie, I don't know if you did when you were in college.
Super briefly.
She did, at a catering company. I worked at Olive Garden.
Yeah, there you go. And I currently do. And even though he's sort of like an investor, whatever he is, he's hands-on. Right. I deal with those types of people. And, like, sometimes it's unfortunate, but you have to bow down. So I think at the end that was her basically like, first of all, I will say, let's keep in mind, this season 2 is picking up right after season 1 ended in terms of, like, chronological order, like, right away. So that restaurant hasn't even been open that long. So this is him freaking out after a short amount of time, which food and beverage managers do. So I think at the end that was her, like, just, like, giving into, like, okay, this guy is, like, a food and beverage guy that I have to potentially answer to. And that's what she's making the phone call.
And he specifically gives her 3 months, he says. It'll close if they don't change, which is nuts, but, I mean, I'll be scared.
Yeah, I'd be scared, too. And I didn't really know, I guess I didn't know how to take her calling at the end, because he did seem like a D-bag, and I did appreciate her when he was throwing his weight around being like, I've opened and run 6 successful restaurants, and I appreciated her being like, and yet you're always here? That's one of those, it's almost one of those things where, like, typically in a show, you as the viewer would think that, but they wouldn't address that. It would be another suspend your disbelief thing. And I was like, yeah, that's a good point. Like, what do you do? How well are all the other ones doing? Are they doing that well that you never have to be there again? Or what's the deal here, buddy? And the deal might just be he crushing on Delilah and wants to hang around.
Yeah. And then when he was hanging with Delilah, he's like, oh, I probably should have been nicer to Gina. It's like, okay. So her calling it just seemed like, well, so maybe that was just a happy ending between the two of them. It was just sort of like not a lot. Gina was basically there to introduce us to a psychic today. Yeah,
it was weird to be like, she'll introduce us to this weird psychic friend that she hasn't seen in 5 years. Mm-hmm. And then, go be a serious businesswoman, I guess. But they really did, I don't know. They really did. I feel like they explored the psychic angle a little bit and like why people get into it, and it was interesting.
It was good. Do we want to talk about Delilah since we're on it? Her big thing is, I don't know, her baby cries a lot. That's,
she's struggling with the baby.
And she says the thing that's different is that she feels different, and she feels like she's failing everybody, including John. She can't remember the song they used to sing to their babies.
Which is Why by Annie Lennox.
Yeah. And
love Annie Lennox, by the way.
Great. Hell of a singer.
And she remembers it when she's apologizing to her baby at the end. The baby's not buying it.
Baby calls bullshit.
And she says, I'm sorry for all the things I've done. And I was just like, so it's going to be the Killers song?
That's what I thought, too.
I was like, what the fuck?
I almost died laughing 2 seconds ago when Jamie was talking.
What? Yeah.
About the Killers?
Yeah, he's drinking wine. Yeah. So I was like, is it going to be the song he was like listening to and his fucking...
All these things that I have done is what he killed himself to, right?
Yeah, and she says, like, I'm sorry for all the things I've done. And then she's like, the song. I was like, what the what? And then it's not. It's just that line is sort of maybe somewhere in the Annie Lennox song.
It would seem weird that wouldn't be an intentional... nod to it, right? Although it's sort of misleading. I don't know. It's unclear. But.
Yeah. Anyway, but I mean that's the main thing. She talks to the psychic. She's upset that John won't talk to her through the psychic, and says she can feel him slipping away. And she's bummed out about that. And I think that's a relatable thing when someone important from your life leaves. Like it's natural, it's unavoidable that at some point like parts can fade and they can come back too, and they can be more clear in moments. I had not to be too deep or dark, but like I had a dream about talking to my grandfather last night, who's like functionally my dad growing up, my mom's dad. But I had a dream and it involved us being on a bus to go somewhere. It was like a wedding kind of thing, and then I felt really bad that I hadn't talked to him more and stuff. And so then I went to try to talk to him, and he appeared to me very clear in that dream. But it's like that's someone who. Maybe the most important person to me who's passed. And, like, he passed in 2002, so it's like, it's crazy that sometimes I'll feel guilty that someone that important to me, I can go as long as I do without thinking of that person, Mm-hmm. So I think Delilah here is, like, experiencing a very natural thing where you start to feel guilt over, like, a person sort of fading in some ways from you, Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you thought about him literally all the time, then you would never get anything done.
Yeah, you wouldn't feed that baby.
Super sad all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's your body's natural defense to
and she's
not jumping off a building.
Yes, and she's worried about failing John again, is like a big thing about with the baby and with not being able to give away money. Real Brewster's Millions situation. She's trying to... I wrote that down as a question to ask everyone. If someone gives you $500,000, is there a scenario under which you don't take it? I mean,
Kevin, I would legitimately take it, put it in my Chase account, and then every day log on to Chase.com and just look at it. I wouldn't spend it. I'd just look at my account.
Oh, that's beautiful. Just look at it and enjoy. Just know you're...
I've never had six figures, never will, by the way.
Yeah, but just to feel safe like that would be wonderful. I couldn't imagine not taking it. They really also... PJ's dad, who's like his...
Oh, over him.
Right. Dave's over him.
Dave's
Mitch.
Over Mitch.
Mitch, they go really out of their way to make him sound working class, I feel like.
Yes.
Don't they?
Yeah, he's a firefighter. He's like, hey, why were you in Brookline? Because my buddy who's a cop saw you in Brookline. It's like, I get it.
With the rich kids. Having sushi. What, pizza's not good for you no more? It's a real... it's like,
have a beer with your fake dad.
All right. It's like, yep, he's blue collar. He might not be this kid who wanted to go to art school's real dad. I get it. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that's weird. I think I would only not like in Gina's situation last year where her rapey uncle tried to
Jesus, yeah, I totally forgot.
Oh wow, that feels like 3 years ago.
I know, doesn't it? Tried to give her a bunch of money and she's like, "No, thank you."
That makes sense to me.
I'd reject it out of spite.
Yeah.
But otherwise, no.
Same.
I would like $600,000.
Yeah, right. I think in this situation, whatever. Fair play to them for not taking it, but I'm like, in that scenario, I'm taking that money. As in Gina's scenario, I don't take that money as well, so that is a good call. Like I would also turn down that money. Otherwise, it's just like, I don't know if it was just like a bunch of Nazis trying to give me money. I guess I'd be like, no, but otherwise,
yeah, you don't want that on your tax return.
No. Some Nazis like me. Yeah.
It's creepy, but now the Nazis don't have the money. Is that helpful? I don't know.
It kind of, yeah. I mean, it's helpful to take money from bad people, I think, but we're anti-Nazi on the show. Sorry if that loses any listeners, but yeah.
Yep.
All right, so
and
that's...
I'm German.
Jamie's German and had two grandpas named Adolf, or just one?
A grandpa and a great-grandpa.
Jamie had a grandpa and a great-grandpa, both named Adolf. So, yeah, basically.
But they were nice. The grandpa was nice. I guess I don't know about the great-grandpa. He might have been awful.
Dave, did you ever know a great-grandpa? Probably not, right?
Unfortunately, I didn't even know one of my grandpas on my dad's side, and then on my mom's side, I barely knew him. So, yeah, great would be no.
Because you're like a much younger sibling in a list of many siblings.
That's the thing, yeah. So my oldest was kind of like way older than me, so yeah, I unfortunately wasn't able to know a lot of the cousins, grandpas.
Right.
Well, maybe they were all Nazis, and it's fine.
I only met one great-grandparent, and it was Bob Pence.
Oh, not great.
Wow.
So he had a relative, many of you guys who follow the news might know. You can figure it out from here. Buy my stand-up album, you'll hear about it. Speaking of Nazis, but anyway, that's the only great-grandfather I knew, Bob Pence. So, fun shit. All right, who's next? Dave, anything else on Delilah? Did we miss anything?
No, I think we covered it all. I think we went good into the restaurant stuff.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, yeah, restaurant stuff, too, in general.
And baby, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we just mentioned Barbara and Mitch and PJ, so basically, like, PJ Lies says when he was in Brookline, he was going to his girlfriend's house, and he's like, because we don't lie to each other, right, Dad? And
Yeah, Jamie, I was going to ask you this. I mean, Kevin, you might know, at the very end, when PJ and Rome are talking, and Rome's like, how did you, or whatever, PJ's like, yeah, I meant to meet you guys at the hospital. Do you recall that at the very end?
Uh-huh.
This could be me completely blanking, but from last year, I know that PJ's been snooping around. Do you recall an instance where he would know they would be there?
Yeah, I did not.
First met Rome, I blanked out.
Good call on calling out Jamie on this one, because I have no idea what the fuck's going on. And Jamie seems
a
to.
meticulous note taker.
Yes.
Well,
yeah, how would PJ know that they would be all there at the very end of last year?
Yeah, I fully blanked on that. I'm not sure. But unless he was kind of like stalking them, because like they did, they showed up to his house. Like Gary was at his house. So it's like, like, his mom went to the house and kind of stalked them for a little bit. So like, I completely forget if we know how he knew that they were at the hospital.
Go back and watch last year. Yeah. Okay, we're on the right track.
Because the last thing, basically like they get a check from the Rutledge thing. Mm-hmm. Barbara and Mitch show up to Delilah. They're like, we don't want your money, and she's
we only want your pizza.
Yeah. Oh man. And then and then PJ calls. Rome is having trouble. He's volunteering for a suicide hotline. He's being trained. He's nervous about taking a real call. The real call he ends up taking is PJ calling his cell phone and saying he's not feeling great and having problems with his dad. So Rome has PJ come to his apartment. PJ picks up a picture of the four dudes, says, "Who's this?" He's like, "That's my friend Gary." It's like, "No, not Gary. This other guy. That's John." And then Rome, sort of like horror movie style, is like, wait a minute, like several minutes later. It's like, hold up. How did you know who Gary was? And I was like, I thought they all met in the hospital for a second. I was like, I really thought that was, I thought there was like
I thought
a reason.
He did meet Gary.
I thought so too.
No, he did. And that's what I'm saying. Like, it's weird because, no, he definitely met Gary. But the way this show is, you feel like everyone just becomes best friends within like minutes.
Sure.
No, he
exactly.
he found the script, Gary's script or whatever, and that's why like he
Rome
mentions
script.
how he mentioned how he purposely ran into them last year. But last year meaning like 2 weeks ago in the show.
Right.
Because remember it picked up.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's weird. It's a weird show.
Yeah, it's a little bit confusing. It's hard to tell if that's us just not remembering what's going on or if that's confusing in the writing. But it ends up, PJ's in the elevator, and he says, I think John might be my dad, and then the elevator's doors close, and then that's it.
Right. And since I guess we got into, I just wrote for PJ, thinks John is his dad, comma, why not? Exclamation point. Like, there's...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's funny in the sense that this whole show has been based on secrets and mysteries, but that's actually one that's not correct.
It's not correct, but also I could see how all the friends in John's life, if this kid presents that theory to them, they'd be like, I don't fucking know. Maybe John did that.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it is true. Like, hell, we don't know. There's a new John video that comes out next week.
Right, John's dropping videos like Tupac's dropping songs. So it's like,
yeah, we don't know.
He's going to start showing up as a hologram.
He's playing Coachella next year. John Dixon's doing a new Suicide Note.
John Chella.
Yeah. God, what a depressing festival that would be.
Depressed Fest.
It's just one Killer song over and over and a crying baby. Yeah. But, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to see where that's going because it's like, it's not, he's dead friend
right.
9/11's baby, right?
Yes. It's his friend from 9/11, which is a terrible sentence.
We know as of right now, but again, that can change. Like,
it can change.
Yeah,
and I think it is true, but it's also like all the this is, I think, logically strong within the show and within the writing because all of his friends would be like, we didn't know he was this depressed. We didn't know all this stuff about him. So kind of everything's in play, you know? And so I think that, like, Rome was thrown off last week in episode 1 because he didn't know John had a vasectomy, right? So it's like, I don't fucking know. Maybe he he had a vasectomy after he found out he had this kid he didn't know about, you know?
That's true.
Yeah, and like, they are really good friends, but we still have to harken back to, like, we kind of put this timeline together last year. They've known each other for a couple years? Like, it hasn't been, like, a lot.
It's from the elevator.
A couple.
Yeah, and it's I guess it's good for this show's sake that none of them have any friends from before 4 years ago except for a psychic.
It is true. Everyone does meet and become best friends immediately.
Right, and had no friends before.
No friends before. That's it.
Yeah, and that's not really a criticism of the show. Shows have to come out of something, but you know,
yes,
yeah. So, all right.
We fight for our own shows.
We do. No one's fighting for this show as hard as we are. I'll tell you that. As for outside of the show, we did get a follow from a staff writer, by the way, today on the show. So that's pretty fun.
Hey, thanks, staff writer.
Yep. So that's neat. Yeah, to ask Danny about us. He knows. By the way, Jamie, how'd you feel about this episode, Danny-wise?
I wrote down as soon as the first thing I wrote down about Delilah, I wrote down, Andrew came by with baby gift. Can't think of song. Barbara shows up. Feel like this is not a Danny episode.
They can't afford Danny. He's too big now.
It's like, it's all about the baby.
We got to get our Danny interview soon. Danny even brought it up on Twitter. He was like, I got to do your podcast soon. Did you see that?
No.
I don't think I made that up. Anyway, follow us at A Million Podcast on Twitter. But,
yeah, we got to get... I know, I'm getting like full middle child syndrome on behalf of Danny now. I'm just like, it's all about the little baby.
Oh, Sophie's driving, and we're excited about the baby. Yeah.
Where's freaking Danny?
Yeah.
Yes, no, not obviously. Not happy.
We're talking about Rome, right? So, so the suicide hotline thing. I think he and I just can't think of her as anything but Jan from The Office, Maggie's mom, Melora Hardin.
Yeah.
Right. Big guest star episode. Melora Hardin and the guy from New Girl, and Jason. Dave, I don't know who Jason Ritter is. Was that the guy at the end?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's John's son, and he was in an ABC show, and he got an Emmy for not Brothers and Sisters, but one of those types of shows.
Okay.
Yeah, no, John Ritter's.
I know people love him. I've just happened to not see any of the shows he's in. Anyway, but yeah.
Was he in a show where he talked to God and his name was Kevin?
Yeah. Kevin Saves the World or whatever. Yes.
There you go.
God damn. How come my name is in so many goddamn shows and I'm not on any TV shows right now?
I know.
As someone who's been on a bunch of TV shows.
Yes.
There's Kevin.
Kevin's real hot right now.
Well, there was Kevin Can Wait, and then there's Kevin Can Go Fuck Himself, and now got greenlighted by AMC. And it's like, yeah, I feel that every day. So anyway, follow me at Kevin McCaff on all your social medias.
Help him out.
But so Rome at the suicide hotline said that he was worried about saying the wrong thing, which I think is extremely relatable, and that's also something that Maggie's mom, Patricia, said with in regard to Maggie. So I think worry about saying the wrong thing. And
specifically not saying something because you're worried about saying the wrong thing.
Yes. And I think, Jamie, you feel that, right?
Oh, it's never happened to me.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Jamie talks all the time. She's never worried about saying the wrong thing.
Yeah, I never talk for that reason.
But I think that what they...
Outside of this.
Right. Outside of into a microphone that goes out to all the listeners.
All day. Every day. Don't say the wrong thing. Just shut up.
Just shut it. What a scenario you found yourself in life.
I know.
As someone
Who'd have thunk?
I know. But basically, I think the point they make is good and right, where they basically say that the worry about saying the wrong thing is understandable but misguided, because I think when someone is in trouble or when you're trying to reconnect with someone, you worry about saying the right thing, right? I mean, all of us worry about saying the right thing since the first day where we can speak, really, right? Like your first day in kindergarten, everything. High school, it's all worried about saying the right thing. But the main thing is you just start talking, and especially if someone's in trouble. Then, in the case of Rome dealing with the suicide hotline, it's not... You kind of can't say the wrong thing unless it's just, fucking kill yourself, bro. Short of that, like, it's just being there, and they make that point. It's just like, you just make yourself there. You just be present. There's really no wrong thing. There's almost nothing you can say that's that wrong in his case, or in Jan from The Office / Patricia's case, where she's trying to, well, in theory, trying to reconnect with her daughter.
Yeah.
The thing is to be there.
If you have the right intention, then it'll get across. Just start talking and figure it out.
Yeah. Which is easier said than done. But I think they do they do a good point. They make a good point with that in this episode.
Yeah. And it's honestly probably a good idea to just not try so hard.
Yeah.
You don't have to come up with something fancy. You can just say the thing that you're thinking. You can even say, I don't know what to say right now.
Absolutely.
But here I am. That's,
Yeah, organic. He got it.
I mean, that really is the perfect thing to say in almost any situation.
I'm now just picturing Dave talking to someone who's in a bad place, and then Dave just sings that at him.
That's the new supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. If you have nothing to say. If I lay here.
That's my role in life, to appease people. My role is not to be happy or sad. It's just to appease other people.
Dave, the life of an entertainer. The life of a... there we go. We're the clowns. All right. I think that's... Anything else on Rome, Dave? I guess we just have Gary, Maggie, and Catherine Eddy left.
Yes. They were the ones with the real meat in this episode.
All right.
Rome and Gina didn't really have much.
No. All right, let's knock out Catherine Eddy then.
I'm just going to say really quick, I don't like when Eddie calls Catherine Katie.
I don't either.
That's an aesthetic thing I just don't like. And the other thing is...
I don't think she likes it either.
Yeah. And then, I also don't like when Catherine calls...
DOT?
Don't like that. Yeah, don't like that. I thought it was cool, though. I said, I'm over Catherine leaving again, ? When she had her hand on the suitcase and didn't.
We all did.
I like that. Yeah.
Jamie and I were like that, too. We're like, just Catherine leaves every episode now? Like, hashtag Catherine leaves, hashtag Gary fucks. Like...
Yes, after thinking Catherine offed herself last week.
Yeah. That was your vibe. God damn, this is what we missed.
Well, yeah, because like I mentioned in my 5-minute blurb, DJ Nash said, and I'm not spoiling anything, I don't think, someone dies this year. Mm-hmm. What was the scene though? Oh, when Katherine was unavailable for 2 days.
Right.
That was episode 1, right?
Yeah.
Because I watched both today. Okay, yeah. So when she was unavailable for 2 days and no one knew where she was, that was the tease.
I gotcha.
Yeah, DJ Nash literally told Deadline, like, someone's dying this year.
One of the main characters dies. Damn.
Shoot. Okay.
Yikes. That seems like a real season 2 we're trying to hook the listeners for a season 3 move.
Yeah.
I'm not super into it. Not super into that tease.
No. I think it's Christina Ochoa. She just, like, dies in Romania.
You're right. She just, like, fucking partied too hard. It's like, oh, she had too much fun and she's dead now.
Yeah, that's very possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like a real Friday Night Lights season 2. Like, we got to do some big, crazy stuff. It's like, just,
tell your stories.
Be sad. Yeah. Be sad about your lives
People
in
die.
the regular way that people are.
Right. And people die, but, like, y'all killed one to start the show.
Yeah,
So
now
you're good for a while.
Now
your
your friend group is just cursed.
Right.
Which it did when they had when Katherine made her big entrance. Kevin and I both thought it looked like a horror movie, like the close up on like her arm, and it's like Katherine's gonna murder Theo and Eddie.
It didn't even, the way it was shot, I didn't even register that it was Katherine at first. I'm like, who the fuck is in their house? Like, who's doing this to
Katherine
them?
finally comes home and just everybody's dead. Oof.
Yeah,
that would have, man, that would have been a strong move if the death in the cast was episode 2. Theo fucking Eddie
Katherine
getting
goes
murdered.
full Chris Benoit. That's for Dave.
Kevin, before Kevin said Chris Benoit, a half a second before he said, I'm like Chris Benoit. We're just on the same page right now.
He's a wrestler that killed his family.
Yep, it's bad news. Don't look it up.
Footnote. Yeah, don't do that.
But yeah, I wrote down Katherine creepy re-entrance. I wrote garden women are awful.
Yeah, it's garden day, and Katherine's just trying to dig dirt with her weird kid, and these moms are, I mean, it's like everyone has to be extremely mean in an episode. Someone has to be extremely mean in an episode at some point.
We had another service professional, by the way, the host at the end of the episode.
Oh my God, yes.
Everyone who works in a restaurant is a huge piece of shit. Everyone who works in retail is a huge piece of shit in this show. We were talking about this last episode where it's like, for some reason, whoever's writing these episodes, they go out. It's a real Larry David Curb Your Enthusiasm situation where it's like, I think maybe the problem's you. Like, if you just think everyone's this big an asshole when you go do anything. Waiters, hosts, fucking people at crib stores. Everyone's just like an over-the-top piece of shit.
Thanks for bringing that up. The crib store thing would never happen in like a Office Max crib store type of situation.
Yeah, they don't.
That would never happen.
They don't have that much power. Anyway.
Yes, it's stupid.
We've actually worked in places like that, I guess so, yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, so the moms are all whispering about her, and then Katherine can't take it and wants to go home. So Eddie, it's just, every time they try to make Eddie look like he's being cool, I just don't buy it. He's like, hey, you know what? Let's go get some boba. I'm like, all right, no. Eddie.
Hey, Katie. I hate him saying Katie, too. It feels pandery. It feels like you're not on Katie level with her yet.
No. You haven't earned Katie.
She's Katherine right now.
He's working on it, but yeah, she's Katherine as hell
Eddie's the martyr.
right
He's
now.
the protagonist.
Hell yeah.
And I'll tell you what, Theo had some bangers this episode.
Guess it, bees! Sorry.
Yes. What we lacked in Danny, we made up for.
That's all I had for Theo.
Yes, he said a third of our food we eat relies on pollinations provided by, you guessed it, bees. He sets a bowl out for his mom, just in case she comes home early. It's like, God dang it. You really know how to rip a parent's heart out while you're, like, not even trying. And then Eddie's response to that is like, well, those court cases can really drag on. And I'm sorry, he told Theo that the court case was in the Grand fucking Canyon. You are the worst liar in the whole world. Are you kidding me? You're making Theo look like an idiot who's telling everyone at school that his mom's being a lawyer in the Grand Canyon, and you're making Katherine look like an idiot. That's half the reason the ladies were being mean, is because Theo's like, my mom's a lawyer in the Grand Canyon. They're like, what?
Right, and that almost puts me on the garden lady side.
I know.
Be a little quieter about it, but yeah. Is she facing the Grand Canyon? Who's the plaintiff? Who's the defendant?
Holy shit.
What are they arguing about? What is the case?
Eddie,
Are they trying to fill it in?
I assume that he's trying to be like, oh, she had to fly somewhere, that's why she's been gone. It's like, you could name literally any city in the entire United States, and he would just be like, she's in Phoenix. Oh, okay. Yeah, the trial's in Phoenix.
And then he's trying to play Red Rocks, that's right.
Yeah, he's trying to get in there.
He's got touring on the brain.
He wants to open for DMB and Tim Reynolds next year.
God, that made me mad. I think after that, it's just like, I couldn't buy anything Eddie did, because it's like, that's what you came up with? You gotta be kidding me.
I should say that so I did think that the story they're telling with Katherine and Eddie, where they're trying to recover from having an affair. And it's not just an affair, because the baby exists, right?
They were like sort of kind of recovered from the affair, and then the baby sort of yanked that wound right back open and dumped some salt in it.
But I do think it's kind of, it's an advanced, and that's an intricate, sort of mature story to try to tell, is like a couple, it's a very gray area story, right? It's a very, like, fucking real-life story where a couple tries to overcome an affair, and they're trying to work through it, and Katherine sort of alludes to that, where, she says she tells the story to Eddie of how they met, basically, and that she always was a plan for tomorrow person. Eddie had her live for today, and he said he wants a tomorrow with her, and she's like, yeah, well, in not these words, but she's like, the baby done fucked that up, basically. But she's still, like, open to it. And it's not good right now, but they're moving forward. They do love each other.
Yeah.
Shit was missing, and they're trying to figure it out. And I do think that's like a messy, interesting story to tell.
Yeah, she's basically saying we're not going to go back to where we were, but we're going to figure out where we're going, and I don't know what it is, which means it's not necessarily not together, but...
It's not necessarily together.
Yeah.
She came back with a pillow at the end. She was buying into the story time.
She was buying in.
Yeah, exactly. Although her saying, like, what did she have? And it's like, I honestly thought she was asking, like, what did Delilah have that
Me
I
too.
didn't? And I was like, what? And he's like, a girl. I was like, oh, right, baby. And
right, what did she have?
Yeah. And then her, congratulations. I'm like, whoo-hoo-hoo. Oh, Katherine. Ooh.
Da, 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 da.
Da, da, da.
Da, da, da.
Katherine brought that smoke. Yeah. The congratulations to your husband for the baby he had while he was cheating on you is, I mean, that's a mic dropper.
Shade.
Yeah, it's dark in here with that shade.
She did, and I think throughout the episode, she did a very good job of, like, of seeming exhausted, but, like, trying. Like, I'm here, and I've decided to try, but I'm friggin' exhausted. And I was just like, this is too much right now.
Yeah, she's good.
Yeah. Also, Theo asked how many worms he can bring home. And she said none. And then he said, let me get your purse. Mom, I'm joking. It's like, Theo, there's no way to know that you didn't stuff my purse full of worms.
Theo, that's a really Theo move to put a bunch of worms in a purse. So there's no, you can't assume that's a joke.
You can't assume that I know that's a joke. It would be bad on my part. And then he literally says, my mom had a big trial and it was in the Grand Canyon.
Yeah. It's like, Theo, did you hit your head on the diving board? That's what it sounds like.
Theo's back on his bullshit in a great way.
Big time. Now, Dave, we are down to Gary and Maggie and Maggie's mom. Dave, I believe you said that Gary was John Cena?
Yeah, I have Gary is John Cena. Now, for you listeners out there that are not wrestling fans, John Cena is a guy who was really, really popular as a bad guy, but then he became even more popular as a good guy. And Kevin, Jamie, and I talked about Gary last year. Gary, kind of an a-hole for half the season, and then, in my opinion, kind of transition. So Gary is kind of like the good guy now. still sarcastic and snarky, but
I
kind
think
of
he's
the guy.
I think he's the number one friend.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's
He's
kind of
there
like John
for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like John Cena, the wrestler, is like a really good guy, but like people still kind of don't like him because he is, in Gary's instance, he's kind of snarky.
I would say Gary's more of a tweener than Cena is currently.
He's a tweener.
Sure.
They're both like polarizing. So I wrote
Absolutely.
down Gary as John Cena because, well, I like wrestling and John Cena is polarizing. I think Gary is.
Yeah, I think that's great.
At least among his friends, because they always seem to think he's a jerk when he's like obviously being very cool to them, which is like, I'm cool as in like good, as in being a good friend to them. Also, our listeners may have seen John Cena co-hosting Kathy Lee and Hoda in the Today Show.
Yeah.
Which he does often.
If you've seen a large man just bursting out of his three-piece suit
Real
on the
G.I.
Today
Joe
Show,
ass. Yeah.
that's John Cena.
Yep. And Gary, the episode opens with Gary and Maggie, and Gary's talking about how he gets along with Patricia, who is Jan from The Office, and he gets along with Maggie's mom after they had their parking dispute. And he says they text sometimes, and then she pulls up. And that made me want to ask, Dave, when you with significant others, how do you refer to their parents? Do you go first name or do you go Mr. Mrs. last name?
I would go Mr. Mrs. last.
That's what I do first.
Yeah.
I've transitioned now with Jamie's parents. I go Jim and Ellen, but when I first met them, Mr. Hughes, Mrs. Hughes.
For sure.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Although
I think
my mom kind of transcends.
Yeah, your mom kind of doesn't play that.
No, my mom's an Ev.
Yeah, she's an Ev. I think she's always been an Ev.
I think my dad kind of transcends in a different way, too.
I know.
Where it's like, that's not a Mr. McCaffrey. It's just like, that's a Brian at best.
Yeah, I know. It's weird.
That is great.
Because it seems obvious both ways to
Yeah.
me. Like with your parents and my parents, it's like, yeah, they were probably Mr. and Mrs., and then your parents weren't. That's weird. I don't know.
No, it's just a question.
You just got to vibe it out, I guess.
Yeah, and so Gary and Maggie's mom, they're both tweeners, and they, I think it makes sense that they talk a little bit, and I think it's not terribly uncommon that, you bring an outsider into any scenario, into any situation that's long term. Relationship-wise, and you might find out new things. I mean, it's like, from me talking to Jamie's mom, like, Jamie found out, like, that she had smoked weed, I think, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I think, like, I was just asking questions, and Jamie, of Jamie's mom, and not being sensationalistic about it, it was conversational, but Jamie was like, yeah, I never heard any of this shit, from just talking to her mom. It's like, yeah, you drop a newbie into the thing, and it's like, there's obvious questions to ask, and I think that's...
Yeah, a new person will ask questions that,
Right.
that you won't if you just hung out all the time.
And that sort of leads to how Gary is with Patricia, where he's, she's eventually being honest with it. Well, it seems, you think at the time, at least, she's being honest about, I'm here to reconnect with, because it's post-psychic thing that we already talked about, where she's like, well, I'm, I lost my son in a car accident, and this is my daughter that I...
She left Maggie's dad.
Yes.
Is the first thing she says when she gets there.
After 32 years of marriage.
32 years of marriage, and she says, when Maggie's asking her about it, she says, she basically blames it on Maggie's cancer. She says,
yes.
after she's like, Maggie, after you went into remission, you realized your whole life was ahead of you, and so did I. It's like, oh, dang.
What a crutch.
What a crutch. Maggie, when you found out you weren't going to die, I said, well, that's why I'll divorce your dad.
Yeah. I'm not going to die with your father.
God, sick-ass burn.
It's like, all right, come on. It's not like you guys were having a great time, and that's why you left. Like,
right.
There was other stuff. She was very cagey about what it was. She's like, there's different ways to love each other, and the way he loves me is not what I need right now, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what are you even talking about?
What do you guys think it is? Do you think they ain't fucking, or do you think he wants weird stuff, or...
I mean, the first place my brain went was like, weird stuff.
He wants weird
but
stuff,
I don't
and she's
think
not
that's
into
what it actually is.
No, I don't think so either. But it did seem like... And
the
it's
way
not,
she said it, that's
right.
what it sounded like.
Right. What do you think, Dave? Why did
weird stuff?
Weird stuff? Team weird stuff.
Dad wants an open relationship.
Yeah, Dad wanted to open it up after 32 years. I've heard about this poly thing people are into.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wrote remission equals divorce. We covered that.
Real bummer.
Maggie suspicious of her mom. And so after Gary talks shit about the psychic, he then, once Maggie comes back from a run, he immediately starts talking to her. I wrote down, don't do a serious talk right after someone gets done with a run. Don't after someone gets done with a workout, you got to give them some space. You can't jump right in. You got to let them cool down.
Yeah. Let me drink some water. Let me pee. Let me towel off.
Yeah.
Then say you're sorry.
Right. And then he basically says the thing, which brings us to the end of the episode, right? Am I jumping over anything anyone wants to say before this?
No, I don't think so.
Basically brings us to the end where he's like, so I recommended a restaurant for your mom to go to, the mom who's sneaky tried to move in with them. Not that sneaky, had a million bags, but, he recommended a restaurant. She went there, and
also he offered her to live in Maggie's old apartment.
Yes.
So he's helping out that way. He's getting her settled.
Right. Yeah. He's really doing stuff. He's trying. And then basically he's like, she's at this restaurant, and Maggie goes and runs into the asshole host. And
in her running clothes, goes to a fancy restaurant. She's really doing this for her mom. Mm-hmm. She thinks she's realizing that her mom's there for her. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then she basically talks to this guy at the bar that is Jason Ritter.
Yes.
Yep.
So talks to this guy at the bar, and he
has some laughs.
Seems fun. He also had been abused by this guy.
Accepts a dare from him, which I was like, that's yours and Gary's thing.
Is that cheating?
Is it cheating?
And yeah, and then she goes up, she takes mints from the guy, and after she takes mints from the guy, she turns around, and her mom is like a borderline, not making out with, but this
rubbing her hand through his hair, I think. That it?
It's the kind
caressing
of
his face?
Yeah, she had her hand in his hair as if she was oh, look at your haircut. And it wasn't it was the kind of thing where if that was Maggie's brother, that would be fine.
Yeah.
But it's not Maggie's brother. So who dat? And how does she know him? And why is she really here? And and Maggie's mad.
Yeah, and then so we had this whole tarot card reader situation. We met Maggie's brother in her dream scenario last year, so I'm like, is this mom thinking this is the brother or something? So that flashed in my head for 2 seconds. I'm like, no, she's here for this younger guy. But we were dealing with this whole Maggie's brother thing in the episode. So I'm yeah, last year there was a dream sequence where Maggie re-envisioned the car. It was her dream. They were in a plane or a car or whatever. Plane, her dream sequence. A plane, yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. So, but no, this is clearly some sort of a affair. Or not affair, but young guy.
Well, I could see that misdirect, though, because we're supposed to think they're hooking up now, and I could see that misdirect, but I don't know what it would be unless it's this was a good friend of that brother's or something that she wanted to meet up with and talk about.
That's very possible.
It could be that, but
it felt very misdirecty to me.
Right?
Yeah, because it wasn't a makeout quarter. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because it wasn't a makeout. It was not flirty necessarily.
Because I wrote down what in all caps, and then she fucking, and I didn't put the C in that. I just put Fukin.
I wrote, I'm done. I didn't do that. I said, I'm done, actually.
Dave wrote, I'm done. And Dave is done every episode. This is just, if you're hanging out with Dave in any part of life, it's at some point in the night, he's gonna be done. He's gonna check out. But check out explosively. Dave is like Eddie, lives for today. But yeah, it seems like right now we're led to believe this is a May-December sort of situation. She's just cooging it up on the town. But it seems like it's led that way so hard that it probably isn't.
Yes. Like I said, I think she was touching him just enough so that you could look and you could think that they're hooking up, but not so much. Again, like if you found out that was her nephew, you wouldn't be like, ew. It's like, no, that was totally appropriate.
She's literally another brother of Maggie's.
Yeah.
Or he is.
Yeah,
He's another brother of Maggie's.
I also had this child, yes.
Secret children all the way up.
It's the new hotness.
Yeah. So that's the thing. And in the preview, you see her like confronting her mom and saying like, tell me the truth. Are you here for me? Are you here for him? It's probably fine.
Yeah. Right. But it does seem like the way they played it into the next week on, it was that she says, are you here for me or him? And they showed Melora Hardin taking a pause being like, well, it's for him. I'm sorry, you know.
I've watched enough Bachelor previews to know how that editing works, man.
Follow at Bachelor Ben here to see Jamie's Bachelor
and
recaps.
I think what it could the main thing I was thinking is just like it's a tough thing where obviously Maggie's like, I don't get along with my mom. I don't trust that she's here for me.
Right.
And Gary...
Fair.
Yes, and Gary trying to help is saying, like, actually, I think she is, and you should talk to her. But it's like, a lot of the times, it's like when you're the person, it can go both ways. You're the outside person, so maybe you can see it better because you're not so in it. But sometimes the person that knows the person better actually does know them, and it's like, yeah, actually, they are shitty. It's kind of, I feel like Rome had that with his family some more, like, or Gina certainly did. But, like, yeah, so it's weird.
Yeah. And as someone who, like...
Do you butt in or not?
Right, and as someone who, like, I didn't really grow up with my dad, and then, like, I've had people who don't really know, and I get along with my dad fine, but, like, we don't see each other a ton. I've had people tell me, well, you know, you only got one dad, and you should try to make that work, and I'm like, Dad, shut the fuck up. Like, you don't really know.
But it does work. It's not like you never talk, you know what I mean? It's
no,
like,
and and same thing in Maggie's situation, where it's like, she's practically living with her now. She's doing fine. It can be, at that point, once you're an adult, it can be on the parent. Like, if you want to make this connection that wasn't really there before, you've been a grown-up the whole time, so you can fucking do that or don't, you know?
Yeah.
But Maggie's not really sweating it too hard. She doesn't need this. She wasn't sweating that her mom wasn't there till she literally was like, can I room with you, you know?
Yeah.
So Team Maggie on that one. All right, so we're done. Did we miss anything? Any spare parts anyone wants to throw in? Let's start with Dave, as I see him peeling his yellow legal pad up with such a stack of books. What a literate guy! This professional writer and television radio personality, Dave Miller. All we see is a couch, a Lucky's hat. Is that Lucky's the like jean brand?
No, Lucky Sandwich Company, let's plug. It's in Wrigleyville.
Okay.
Hey.
Dave is in Chicago.
Yeah, so you guys know that show Man vs. Food. You can go there and, like, there's a challenge eating 3 sandwiches in an hour. The thing is, the sandwich literally has fries and slaw on it, and one sandwich is like 3 sandwiches. So
Jesus Christ.
Yes. If you're familiar with Man vs. Food, it was on there.
Sure. I love how many books you have stacked up comically to your right, though. That's beautiful. What a literature major.
You know, as my dad used to say, I have a pot to piss in, but, you know, I have a good time.
Yeah.
I think we covered everything. I'm still upset that I wrote Jason Ritter, I'm done. I need to start saying I'm done less.
That's great. Jamie?
Dave's done.
Sorry, Dave. Yeah.
Oh, no, I think I'm done. All I have is Maggie and her mom are more alike than they think. Only that was before I found out about the whole restaurant thing. After the Gary talk, I have Maggie and her mom more alike than they think, ? And then what happened at the restaurant thing, they're probably actually different.
Sure.
We talked about it. No, I think I'm good on the nose.
Sweet. Jamie?
Dave's done with being done. And
Yep, that's a good note.
I don't know. Maggie's when Maggie gets upset with her mom, she wants to have bottomless mimosas, and that is a mood.
Big mood. Big mood. Dave clapped and pointed.
Appreciate that, Jamie. Thank you for speaking for us.
You're welcome, Dave.
Follow us at A Million Little Podcast on Instagram, at A Million Podcast. I think A Million Podcast on Twitter. Is that right, Jamie?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And we will frequently live tweet the episodes. And, this episode is going to be out Friday morning for people who, once you wake up on Friday morning, we'll be right there. And we'll be that timely from here on out is the plan.
Except next week.
Except next week.
We'll be in...
Las Vegas. That's right.
Next week's going to be late for sure. But then, we'll be good.
If we get the episode early, we'll be fine. DJ Nash.
Yeah.
As I log on to Spirit Airlines right now.
Dave, meet us. Meet us in Vegas. Dave did kind of surprise us in Vegas once. It was wonderful. We've spent 2 weekends in Vegas together, the three of us. Great times. Thanks for listening, and thanks for spending this week on the podcast with us. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll catch you next week.
Million Little Bite.